Previously, we took a look at the differences between the Note 20 Ultra and the Z Fold 3. There's one more phone that's trying to take the Note's crown, and that phone would be the Galaxy S21 Ultra. And today, we're going to take a look at how it stacks up against the Z Fold 3. Now, as you know, I will try to be as straightforward as possible, so I will say this again. In this comparison, there will be no in-depth analysis of how the S Pen works with these devices. However, I will be referencing them as it relates to how they work with their displays. I'm currently still waiting on Samsung to send me that S Pen Pro that I ordered. I feel like I've said that like 3 times, and I'm pretty sure I have. I'm currently waiting on that so that I can do my in-depth analysis, but as always, I like to be as honest as possible with all of you. So, without further ado, let's take a look at how the Galaxy S21 stacks up to the Galaxy Z Fold 3. Moving on to what comes in the box, starting with the S21, you're going to have your quick reference guide, a USB-C to C cable, your SIM ejector tool, and of course the phone. On the Z Fold, you're going to have basically the same thing. You're going to get that quick start guide, you're going to get a Type-C to C cable, and a SIM ejector tool. Make sure that if you need a charger, you buy one at the store that you're in or order one with your phone because it won't come with it anymore. And I've probably said that like 500 times already. But anyway, moving on. The S21U has a starting price of $1,199.99 for the 128GB model with 12GB of RAM. Adding $50 more will get you twice the amount of storage, but the RAM will stay the same. There's also a 512GB model with 16 gigs of RAM. The Fold starts at $1,799.99 for the 256GB model with 12GB of RAM. And if you add $100 more, you can double your storage, but you'll still only get 12GB of RAM. The S21U comes in 5.5 different colors. You have the Phantom Black, Phantom Silver, 3 exclusive Samsung.com choices, which are Phantom Titanium, Phantom Navy, and Phantom Brown. These exclusive colors have a carbon fiber texture on the back of the camera housing, and they also take up to 3 to 4 weeks to ship since they're made to order. The last color seems to be a Best Buy exclusive navy color that doesn't have the carbon fiber texture on the camera, but it does have its camera colored the same shade as the device. This is the reason I pretty much said that there's 5.5, since it just seems like it's a slight derivative of the Phantom Navy model that's available through Samsung.com. By saying that, I don't mean to downplay it though, because I've actually seen it in person, and honestly, if it was a color choice when I got my S21, I would have definitely gone with that. The Fold comes in 3 different color choices, which are Phantom Black, Phantom Green, which they should have named barely green because apparently it's hard to see, and Phantom Silver. If you go with the 128GB version of the S21U, you'll have access to the black and silver color choices. Going with the 256 will give you the choice of black, titanium, navy, and brown, while the 512 only seems to come in the black color if you can find it anyway. The 256GB version of the Fold will give you access to all 3 color choices, but if you want the 512, you're stuck with only black. The front of both devices are very similar in the way that they have Gorilla Glass Victus protecting the front there, and it actually extends over the punch hole camera that's located right at the top. On the left side of the S21, you have that aluminum housing right there, and you have 2 antenna breathers. On the Fold, you have this large hinge right here, which is what actually makes it so that you can open and close this thing, with that Samsung branding right there. The back of the devices also has Gorilla Glass Victus on both, and it's a matte glass, so it's actually more sort of slick to the touch in my opinion. It's a little bit easier to drop it if you are trying to drop it, which I'm pretty sure you're not. On the S21U, you have that 4-camera setup with the laser autofocus and the flash, and on the Fold, you have the flash and 3 cameras. Both of the camera bumps on these things are raised, so if you're going to be putting them down on the table, they are going to tip over. They're not going to be flat. On the right side of the S21U, you have your power button, another antenna breather, and your volume rocker. I forgot to also mention that the aluminum here is actually more of a gloss finish compared to the Fold, which is a matte finish here. On the Fold, you also have that power button, which doubles as a fingerprint reader, your volume up and down rocker too, your SIM card tray over there to the top left, 4 antenna breathers, and I believe this is another antenna breather specifically for the 5G radios. I'm not sure. I know it's a piece of plastic, so it might be letting some kind of signal through. The top of the S21 Ultra has 1 antenna breather and 2 microphones. On the Fold, you have 3 microphones, 4 antenna breathers, and then you have that speaker grill right over there. And if you notice, there is a gap between both screens and the hinge that holds them there. So dust can get through. It definitely can get through. On the bottom of the S21U, you have another antenna breather. Actually, there's 2. A SIM card tray, which is where that's located now. A microphone, your Type-C USB port, that speaker grill, which is kind of small compared to the Fold, and that's it. On the Fold, you have another 4 antenna breathers, a USB Type-C port, a microphone, and a larger speaker grill. On the main screen of the Fold, you're going to have that crease going right down the middle, your under display camera up there over to the top right portion of the screen, and the Armor aluminum frame. I forgot, that's a new aluminum that Samsung is using. Armor aluminum frame that actually goes all the way around. Now, on the screen for the Fold, there is actually a screen protector that Samsung recommends you do not take off. I remember that people had the first Fold, they took it off, and it broke their screen. It doesn't seem to be the case with this, but I'd leave it on. I mean, it's free anyway. And, you know, it's protecting the ultra-thin glass that's on there. So, yeah, leave it there. All right, so here is your size comparison. As you can see, the S21U is actually, it's a bit bigger than the Fold, but in terms of the thickness, that's where things get a little bit more interesting. So let me see if I can actually get this on camera. So here's the S21U, screen to screen, and that's how thick the Fold is. The S21U is IP68 certified, which means it can withstand dust and it can withstand water immersion up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. That means that something like rain should not bother this device. The Z Fold 3, however, is IP8 certified, and what that means is that, technically speaking, Samsung either didn't test it for dust resistance, or they did and found that dust can still get into the device, and that's obviously because of that hinge. But it is resistant, water resistant, up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes, so rain and even submergence still shouldn't bother this device. As a matter of fact, I believe this is the only foldable device that has a water resistance rating. When it comes to display specs, the S21U has a 6.8-inch OLED display that is backed by an LTPO backplane for efficiency. This display has a resolution of 3200 by 1440. It's capable of 120 Hz refresh rate at full resolution, and it's also HDR10 Plus certified. It also has support for the S Pens currently made by Samsung. except for the Fold Edition S Pen. The Z Fold 3's cover screen is a 6.2-inch OLED, and it's backed by Samsung's new Eco OLED tech for efficiency. The display has a 2268 by 832 resolution. It's also capable of 120 Hz refresh rate at full resolution, but it is not HDR10 Plus certified, nor does it support the S Pen or any S Pens at all. The main screen of the Z Fold is a 7.6-inch OLED that is also utilizing Samsung's new Eco OLED tech, has a 2208 by 1768 resolution, is capable of 120 Hz, but it is also not HDR10 Plus certified, just like the main display, but it does support the Fold Edition S Pen as well as the S Pen Pro. Both devices utilize Qualcomm's Snapdragon 888 for all your processing needs. As a reminder, this processor utilizes the 5nm process to ensure better performance while cutting down on battery consumption. Needless to say, these aren't slow phones, nor should they be when you're paying an arm, a leg, and a soul for them. So here are the benchmark tests for those of you who are wondering. And I will be honest, I don't play any games on my phone, so I can't really speak to how well they perform in the graphics department. However, I have seen other gaming videos with these devices, and pretty much they don't stutter, they don't lag, or anything along those lines. And again, these phones are really expensive. I would be very surprised if they do. Both devices also benefit from having LPDDR5 RAM, so they won't take up as much power in that regard either. As expected, apps open quickly, and most, if not all, stay open in the background. There might be an occasion where you see something reload, but that's probably due to the OS identifying the app you're using as something that doesn't need to stay open. You should definitely go into the device care section and make sure that that app isn't being optimized. Now, usually when I am doing this test, the Xbox app is actually what has to restart most of the time, or takes pretty long to start up. So I'd imagine it's probably getting kicked out of RAM because of that Samsung device care that I was just referring to. Both devices support 5G and are capable of the same speeds, provided you're in an area that has actual 5G support. I say actual because although the indicator might say 5G, you could still be getting 4G speeds on that sub-6 frequency. You might want to use an app like Speedtest to check if this is something you're interested in. Both devices have the same Wi-Fi chip that adds support for Wi-Fi 6E. As a reminder, you'll need a compatible router to use any of the benefits brought by this new standard. Both devices also have Bluetooth 5.2, so in theory, you should get the best quality and connection offered in the world of Bluetooth. From an I/O standpoint, both devices are exactly the same also. Both utilize USB 3.2 at Gen 1 speeds. The Type-C port can connect to TVs, monitors, and projectors via HDMI or DisplayPort over USB-C. Both have the ability to project wirelessly to capable displays via SmartView and Miracast. NFC support is still available on both devices, but neither of them have MST support. So for Samsung Pay, you'll have to find a store that has an NFC compatible reader instead of just being able to magically put your phone where you'd swipe a card. The S21U is set up to be a phone geared towards people who want the best in-class camera, or cameras in this case. It has a 40 megapixel camera on the front, while the Fold has a 10 megapixel camera. That 10 megapixel camera isn't as powerful as what's on the S21U, but it's still not a bad camera. At least not as bad as the 4 megapixel under display camera on the main screen of the Fold. On the rear of the S21U, you have a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 108 megapixel wide angle camera, and two 10 megapixel telephoto cameras, one with 3 times optical zoom and one with 10 times optical zoom. Digital zoom goes all the way up to 100 times, and you also have laser autofocus. On the Fold, you have a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 12 megapixel wide angle camera, and a 12 megapixel telephoto camera with 2 times optical zoom and up to 10 times optical zoom. So before we move on to the samples, I have to apologize once again like I did in my last comparison because I did not get to take a diverse amount of photos, so these will only be rare camera samples. The speakers on both of these devices should get the job done for anybody trying to broadcast whatever is coming out of them. They won't be the greatest thing for audiophiles, of course, and I did say this last time, but if you need to let someone hear something really quickly, you shouldn't have a problem with the quality on them. So let's go ahead and get right into the audio test. And I'm going to try to do again what I did before and just raise the volume, whenever I want to switch to the other one instead of just playing them separately so you get a better idea. So here we go.
I can feel the power, I can feel the power. Feel the power. Yeah, money that is time and hour. Time and hour. Yeah, well, I better activate the power. I'ma activate it, gotta make it, gotta chase it. I don't care what they be saying, I'ma do it now. And I've been really scraping, I ain't giving up and I ain't giving in. Do it now for the dividends. I'll be on the path, I just gotta get it, cause I got my mind on some bigger things. So man, I ain't gonna give in now, I just gotta live this now. I'll be gonna be when I'ma kill this stuff real quick. I'ma go take it to town, cause I gotta be that king in the ring when I'm knocking him out. When I'm back with the flip, cause I am just up on the journey. So that I'm just going insane. Get no sleep. So I just need to get it, man, I need to be the thing that I just painted out, man, you won't go see. See my vision, I'll be in it, I'ma kill it, I'ma take it all. Coming in, I'ma play it now, I'ma kill him dog, I'ma play the ball, cause I gotta go and get him, and I really just need it. Tell these guys that they can beat it, I'ma give it, I'ma grab it, man, take it, never receive it, I'ma make it mine, I'm explosive like a mine, I've been working every time, yeah, I do it on the grind, I'ma shine, yeah, every single day, I'ma kill this competition, cause I'm going so insane. Hey, I nigga, what's my say? Yeah, I guess really ran through the pain, but I'm just back on my path, and I fixed it now, it's really okay. So Got a million desires that I just need to go achieve. I just need to acquire. So I've been climbing up this ladder. Yes, I'm going up higher. I need to do it till the day that I might retire.
All right, so microphone quality is also something that we have truly come to expect to just be good. It doesn't have to be excellent, but it has to get the job done. And I think that both of these devices do. So I'm going to play back a recording I made a few seconds ago, and hopefully you'll hear exactly how the microphones sound. But first, let me make sure the volume's up. That's definitely not up, that's down. All right, so starting with the Galaxy S21 Ultra. This is a test of the Galaxy S21 Ultra microphone versus the Z Fold 3 microphone. Hopefully both of these phones come out sounding very clear because they're extremely expensive. All right, and now the Z Fold 3. This is a test of the Galaxy S21 Ultra microphone versus the Z Fold 3 microphone. Hopefully both of these phones come out sounding very clear because they're extremely expensive. All right, so there you have it. The quality is good. It's okay. I think the Z Fold 3 sounds a little bit more tinny, if I'm being completely honest. But you all tell me what you think in the comments, of course. The S21U has a rather large battery at 5,000 milliamps, while the Fold has two batteries, once again, one sitting at 2280 milliamps and one sitting at 2120 milliamps, for a combined total of 4400 milliamps. The charging standards for both of these devices are pretty much the same. You have 25 watt wired charging, 10 watt fast charging, and 4.5 watt reverse wireless charging. Alrighty, so now we're going to head into the charge test first instead of just trying to drain the battery from 100% and see how that goes. So I'm going to actually start with the Fold, because I'm not going to get these charges in at the same exact time, and I'm not even going to try. But let's get the Fold first since it has a smaller battery. So 1, 2. Okay, and it is 7:26 right now. So I'm going to come back at 8, provided I don't get sidetracked or anything. And let's see how far these batteries get. All right, so it is a little bit past 8. Got distracted doing some stuff at home, but it's okay. So right now, the Fold is sitting at 95% and the S21U is sitting at 94%. So there you have it. All right, so I was able to get both of the batteries to full, and what I'm going to do now is just take the chargers out and let these run for an hour from now. So let's see just how much battery life is taken when you're watching something on. Hold on, let's see. Let's make sure that quality is all the way up. 2160p, yeah, we need that. And 2160p, we need that. Okay, so let's see how it is when you're watching something that is on 2160p, 1440 resolution, I believe, for an hour on battery. All right, so here we go. All right, so it has been an hour and I don't know what the heck happened here, but apparently the video changed. I have to find that on the footage, but anyway, shouldn't matter. Let's just see what the battery life on the devices is right now. All right, so you have the S21 sitting at 93% and the Fold sitting at 90%. Honestly, I thought the Fold would have wasted a lot more battery since it was on its main screen, but that Eco AMOLED screen that Samsung put on here, yeah, it's pretty darn efficient. Okay, I'm impressed. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing that I did in my Note 20 Ultra versus Z Fold comparison for the software portion of this. Like I said before, if you've used a Samsung phone from 2021 and up, or even 2019, you'll pretty much know what to expect on anything that's not a folding phone. So I just want to take this time to go over some features that may be interesting to people with the Z Fold 3. All right, so just like before, none of these things are in any particular order or are really more important than the other in any fashion. These are just things that I think someone should know when looking into the Fold, or maybe things that maybe just someone wanted to find out but didn't want to have to go to a store to see them in the device. Either way, maybe there will be something you're interested in here. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is flex mode. And flex mode is just this thing where you kind of bend the phone at an angle and the screen kind of reforms to focus on the content sort of on the top screen. It's also good for if you want to set your phone down to take a picture without having a stranger touch your phone, because if you're like me and people ask you, "Hey, do you want a picture?" I'm like, "No, don't touch my phone. I don't want you touching my phone. I'll do it myself, thanks." So yeah, flex mode essentially just makes it easier for you to see things. So as you can see here, I have this really boring video of a sunrise that I caught. And what I can do is play this and notice right here how it says touchpad. It's pretty much going to act the same way it would if I had the phone just kind of scrolling through pictures, but it optimizes the field of view for if I put this down on a table and just want to watch a movie. This also works with YouTube and other apps like that. You can kind of go into the Galaxy Labs section and enable it for specific apps. So if you have something in mind, it's probably there. But it's also pretty useful for when you're laying in bed. So yeah, that's flex mode. Now the next thing is that fingerprint sensor gestures are back. So normally this was a feature that Samsung added with phones that had a hardware fingerprint sensor, and being that the Fold does not have an in-screen one, you do have a hardware fingerprint sensor. And just some of the things you can do with this is you can open a notification panel. So if I go ahead and turn that on and then slide down on the notification panel, see, I can just pretty much use the fingerprint sensor and just gestures and yeah, whatnot. You can also use it to open Samsung Pay, which is pretty handy. And there's also some applications on the Play Store that you can use to kind of customize the gestures on this. I don't know if those are still available, but you should definitely go out there and look for those if you find this to be a feature that's interesting. Now the next thing, and this is pretty much something I think everybody wonders about. Now, of course, you have the S Pen Fold Edition at that, with the Galaxy Fold series, and see my screen going dark, sorry about that. But one of the things people probably want to know is how it interacts with that crease in the middle. So what I can tell you, at least from my experience, is that I really do not feel this thing. Like, I can go ahead and write smoothly, and I pretty much only feel it when I am pressing down harder. And you see, you can actually see the screen flexing there while I'm pressing down harder. Of course, this S Pen retracts just to make sure you don't break your screen. But the added addition also of that screen protector they have on there actually does wonders for this. So yeah, the crease here does not really, it doesn't take away from the experience, at least in my opinion. For an artist, that may be a different story. So the next unique thing about the Fold is that you can actually pin all of your Edge panel apps to the screen permanently. What this looks like is you're just going to pull out your Edge panel normally and go to that menu button there and pin. So essentially this is pretty good for when you want a multi-window or use, I don't know, just pop-up apps or anything along those lines. It's essentially just that Edge panel you'd normally swipe out with your fingers, just more convenient right on the screen. So if I wanted to go into something like YouTube and let's say voice recording, I can pretty much go ahead and do that and drag it and drop it wherever I want to put it into multi-window or even put it into pop-up window. This is not something that's crazy big, but this is something that's there, and it's something definitely that's pretty unique to the Fold. So one of the other more unique features of the Fold is that you can actually use the rear camera to take pictures by utilizing the cover screen to see what you're doing. So the way you do this is by going up to this button here in the top right corner. And then what you're going to do is just go ahead and flip the phone around, and as you can see, it sees basically just through the rear camera. And I just took a picture of myself because it probably thought I said something to trigger that, but yeah, there you go. And then you guys can see my poor man's rig, which consists of another Samsung phone, recording another Samsung phone inside of another Samsung phone. Yeah, so this is what you can do with the Fold. Now, sticking with the camera features, another thing you can do that's unique to the Fold is preview your camera pictures over to the left side as you take them, so you'll know if you got a bad picture. Now, you can do this by hitting this button up here in the top left, and if I go ahead and take a picture, you'll notice that the preview shows up right there on the side. So that's a pretty neat trick that Samsung added. It makes it so that you can actually just save time and kind of delete the pictures or kind of see which ones are going to be really good and which ones are not. You know, of course it goes right into the picture anyway, but yeah, you can just preview them there. Now the last thing I'm going to go over is, and this is something that kind of drives me up the wall. I'm surprised that they haven't fixed this yet. And I'm not a software engineer myself, so maybe there's something to this that I don't know or that I'm overseeing. But this annoying thing happens when you use multi-window. So I'm going to demonstrate this right now. So if I go here and I type in, let's say Galaxy, right? And I want to use another app. If I go ahead and load in YouTube, watch what happens and keep your eye on this pane right here. So as you can see, it pretty much erased what I had there, and it actually took me back up towards the top of the page. So what I'm getting at is that when you're using multi-window, you really want to be careful, because if you're doing a form online, and let's say, for instance, you need to open an email or something like that, it's most likely, if you're using the Samsung browser, maybe this is only going to happen there. But if you're using a browser, just be very careful, because you could fill out a whole form, and I have done this. You could fill out a whole form with like just everything, and if you use multi-window, it'll delete it all. So the apps kind of reload, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if this is going to be a big deal for everybody, but it's a big deal for me, so I just wanted to put it out there for sure. All right, so we have gone ahead and gone over a lot of the details on these devices, and pretty much what it comes down to is it's just, you know, do you want to go into that new device, sort of that new form factor, and just see what it's all about? Or are you fine with just sticking with, you know, what's tried and true and just what's out there? I would really actually like to know what all of you think, and just, you know, what device you're going to end up getting. So please let me know in the comments for sure. But as always, have a good day or have a good night wherever you are in the world. And thank you for watching, of course.